et de tout reprogrammer. On ira, on saura sauver notre existence, se donner une chance de tout effacer. On ira, on saura sauver notre existence pour refaire un monde sans danger. Comme Lyoko, tout reprogrammer. Comme Lyoko, un monde sans danger.
Hello, and welcome to Return to the Past, a Code Lyoko retrospective. We are the internet's premier Code Lyoko podcast because we are the first, the only, and the best. I'm Mary, and I am Spartacus.
I'm David, and I have been technically dead since 2006.
And I'm Ben, and I'm why we can't have nice things.
Oh, that's not true. You are both wonderful.
Well,
You're wonderful too, Mary.
Oh, well, thank you.
Ben, you're okay.
We're all friends here at the Return to the Past recording booth,
And-
which is
And you, dear listener, are also our friend.
yes. At the Return to the Past recording booth, which encompasses 3 different rooms in 3 different states, and also all of your, wherever you are listening. Hi there! Welcome back.
Okay, before we begin, some due diligence. First of all, I listened to our earlier episodes, and I realized that I sound like a stroke victim. I was not aware of this, so if I'm hard to understand sometimes, I apologize.
David, that is patently not true. You sound perfectly fine. I'm the one who sounds weird.
No, you don't.
All humans sound weird. It's okay. We all sound
I
weird.
guess. Well, item number 2 is that we passed a milestone today. We have been downloaded. We have attained 400 downloads.
Woo! Yeehaw!
Congratulations!
Congratulations. Congratulations. That's 400 downloads total, not unique listeners. If it was unique listeners, that would be amazing. I also found out something else. It turns out I had more options to look at our download statistics than I thought I did. We also have regional statistics that we can look at. And unsurprisingly, 90% of our listeners are in the U.S., but our next big listener group with 4% of our listenership is from Brazil. So that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Thank you. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I guess I wasn't aware that Code Lyoko aired in Brazil, but I guess it does. It did kind of air everywhere.
Well,
It
we
did kind of
certainly
air
are
everywhere.
glad that Code Lyoko aired in Brazil, because we got 4% of our listenership from there. So,
Woo!
thank you, Brazil. Jose Carioca is definitely my second favorite parrot. Oh, but Fofao, do not care for him at all. He gives me nightmares. Get rid of him.
Agreed. I've never seen Fofao, but David told me not to look him up.
The non-Brazilian mind cannot grasp the true form. So, I advise
Don't worry.
I advise all of you non-Brazilians to not Google him.
You know, Google. David, you seem to be our resident "don't Google this thing" expert.
Really?
But I am sure. Yeah, you've mentioned this. I think in a couple episodes.
Oh, what other things have I told you not to Google?
I don't remember, but I distinctly remember you saying it before.
That might have been me with Jeremie Perrin's other animation work.
That was.
Yeah.
That was.
Yeah, don't Google that, children.
Please don't.
Like, seriously, don't do it.
But
Like,
do you know
dead
what?
serious.
Do you know what you should Google and then go to YouTube and then watch Code Lyoko Episode 7 Image Problem.
Yes. Although first, I would like to just sort of get 2 other bits of big news out of the way. First, Ben, what did you spend today doing?
I made us a Tumblr, you guys.
Woo!
If you enjoy, as I do, spending time on Tumblr, then you can go to RttP podcast, that's RTTP, and then the word podcast, .tumblr.com, and follow us. We've got all of our episodes on there. We will link them as we make them. We've got some fan art up on our blog, or we will. It's in the queue. So if you want to relive some good Code Lyoko moments and see some nice art, then you can follow us on our blog. We would love to have you. You can send us an ask us whatever you like. You can submit nudes. We won't share them.
Please don't submit nudes.
Yeah, please don't submit nudes. But submit some nudes.
Please don't.
And yeah, so we would love to have you on our Tumblr. If you are a fan of Code Lyoko and you don't have a Tumblr, you should get a Tumblr and then follow us so it'll up our follower numbers. You should, if you want your fan art on our blog, you can let us know. You can message us. You can email us at rttppodcast@gmail.com. And of course, as a general plug, you can also follow us on Twitter, RTTP Podcast.
All spelled the same way. Ben, I just wanted to go ahead and say that you are so much better at social media than I am. Like, you've been so conscientious about this. Mostly I've just been like, oh, wait, I need to post about the new episode. Well, and then that's all I do. To be honest,
Twitter has never been my strong suit. But Tumblr, since I waste like all of my life on it, it's my hobby at this point, so I guess it's just sort of my wheelbox.
I have not been on Tumblr since I wrote those excellent game reviews and nobody gave them any notes, so...
Oh.
And also, my voice acting, remember that, Mary?
I do remember that.
I read some lines from Danganronpa.
Yes.
The
yes,
hit
you do an
from
excellent...
like 5 years ago.
You do an excellent Hagakure and an excellent Kamaida.
Ah, thanks, Mary. I do what I can.
I'll admit that your Sans is pretty decent.
Your Sans is very good.
Yeah, well, you guys are making me blush now. I am one blushing skeleton.
True. Yes, exactly. I feel like I had one other thing I had to say, but... Oh, yes, I forgot to mention, as I do every episode, that our cover art was done by the multi-talented Ingram. You can find them and their art on Twitter at Ingram Comics. That's INGRAM, and then comics with an X, or on their website at www.ingramcomics.com. All right, and now, Image Problem.
Wait, did we get any new emails this week?
We did not get any new emails.
No emails.
Oh.
I thought
we
you
love
guys
emails. Please send us emails. Please give us validation.
We love that
validation.
We love that validation. We are like Strong Bad. Send us your emails.
I guess I'm not familiar with that reference.
You don't know about Strong Bad?
I mean, I've heard the name, but I don't know how Strong Bad relates to emails.
Oh, it was a feature on Homestar Runner, a recurring feature where he would answer emails from viewers.
Okay.
Or he's like, what's that one really funny one that's not funny at all, but it made me laugh for like 3 hours straight?
I don't know. I must have shown it to you.
No, I think it's one. Like, I actually watched this one when Homestar Runner was culturally relevant. It was like hello, Strong Bad. Hi, Strong Bad. He's like, well, which is it? Hello or hi?
Well, Homestar Runner will always be culturally relevant, I think. Like, even if it's not updating as often as it used to, it sort of shaped the sense of humor of the internet.
I don't know if I like what the internet is now. It used to be better.
Well, I mean, it is fairly old, but no, it's, Ben, you may know it as the source of Trogdor the Burninator.
Oh, yes. Nobody remembers Trogdor the Burninator anymore.
I remember Trogdor the Burninator.
Well, I remember Trogdor the Burninator, but nobody else remembers Trogdor the Burninator.
David, I just have this image of you in my head. You know, it's like 80 years in the future, and you're in a rocking chair in a nursing home. And you're just, and the nurses are passing you by, and you're just like, nobody remembers Trogdor the Burninator anymore.
That is almost certainly what is going to happen in the future. You had a prophetic vision.
Yeah, I had a future flash.
You know what else? I remember?
What?
That what was it called? Everyone else has had more sex than me.
Oh yes, you showed me that one.
Oh, I love that so much. It's the best thing. It was the best, the best, greatest thing on albinoblacksheep.com. Oh, and also that weird animated version of Weird Al's Albuquerque.
Oh my god! Oh, that was so
that?
weird. That was so weird.
Excuse me.
So, image problem. Image problem. Image problem. Image problem. Image problem.
Image problem.
Did we mention yet in this take that Bruno yet?
We did.
I'm not sure that we did. It is the first episode by Mary's favorite Code Lyoko writer, Bruno Regeste.
Woo! Although it seems that it was written in collaboration with someone named Hislan Pujol, whose name I almost certainly butchered. I'm so sorry, Hislan. But yes, this is the premiere of the man who would, I think, later become the series showrunner in Season 4. Don't quote me on that, because I'm not really sure. I think Sophie Dequazette might have been the showrunner from Series 2 to 4. I'm not actually sure who the Season 1 showrunner was.
Oh, wasn't it, Jerome?
So what's his... Oh, Muscadet? Or
Yeah.
what about, what's his face? Atlan.
Nicholas Atlan. He's,
That's right, I forgot all about him.
Nicholas Atlan. He's like the main Moonscoop guy.
Oh, okay.
So he was not the showrunner.
And he was not the showrunner. He's the guy that ran Moonscoop. And, Jerome Muscadet was the entire series director. He was not the writer. Yes, I know all these things. So yes, Image Problem. This one, I've really been looking forward to this one because I remembered it being sort of like I consider Cruel Dilemma a turning point, but this one is much more of a turning point.
Cruel Dilemma isn't a turning point. It's like a growing the beard moment, to quote TV tropes.
A little bit,
It's
yeah.
when the show gets good. Image Problem is where it introduces more of its recurring imagery and motifs and ideas.
I think that for the first time, we have a consecutive episode that builds on things that we had in the previous episode. And I don't mean plot-wise. I just mean like conceptually and that sort of thing. Right,
and I also feel like it's not really floundering around with its concepts anymore. It's explaining them and building on them, then also weaving it in with the more emotional aspects and the school life stuff that we've been seeing for the past few episodes.
I have nothing to add to that.
So this is the first episode, as we alluded to last of our episodes, where we see the ice sector.
Woo!
And as we sort of open the episode, it opens in Lyoko, which is rare. I believe, don't quote me on this, this is the first time that an episode opens in Lyoko in the midst of an action sequence.
It is, in fact, the first time that happens.
So first, we zoom in on the ice sector, and there's this like really fast zooming motion across the landscape.
And that will become common.
And the first thing we hear is Yumi and Aelita breathing very heavily together.
Yeah, that's gonna be a recurring thing throughout Season 1. I guess they thought it would be more realistic if they were panting when they were running. It just sounds really, really, well, you know.
It sounds vaguely sexual, is what we mean.
Yeah. Quote Griffin McElroy, it sounds like it's full of, you know.
Oh, jeez. This is also the first time that we see a tower that is not active.
Really?
It is. And in fact, they're not there. They aren't even on a mission to deactivate the tower. They're there because Aelita felt a brief pulsation and Jeremie picked up something briefly in a scan, but they can't find an activated tower. Also, before we move on, I want to point out that, at least in this incarnation of the ice sector, it looks like the path that Yumi and Aelita are running on, there's like a layer of snow, but there's also a layer of something darker underneath, as if there's like a land bridge, which is not something I think we ever see again.
I didn't see it at all.
I think it's like a Season 1 thing, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
To see the underlying quote-unquote earth under like the snow, because I don't think that's the only time we see it.
But I know that in you guys.
It's very quick.
It's very quick, yeah, and I don't know, yeah, just from Season 2 onwards, the sectors get to look a lot more homogeneous, you know?
Absolutely. No, I get exactly what you mean. That too.
Yeah, that too. So yes, Aelita enters the tower, and she communes with Jeremie a bit about how weird this is, and then we hear a loud scream.
Let's specify that Yumi stays outside.
Oh yes, whoops, forgot.
They can, like, non-Aelitas can in fact enter the towers, but they do so very rarely. And this is not one of those times.
Yeah, for the longest time I thought it was not possible. I thought only Aelita could go into the towers. It's not until much later in Season 1 that we actually see it happen, I think.
And not only there's a function to them. I don't remember the context. Towers are like warp points, and you can warp from one tower to another.
You can, or between sectors. That's actually how Aelita travels between sectors, and you'll see it later. It's actually a pretty cool sequence.
Is it possible to physically walk from one sector to another?
I don't believe so, no.
No, it's not. It's not.
Yeah.
The sectors are bordered on all sides by the digital sea. The towers are the only means of transport.
They're not bordered on all sides by the digital sea. There's Sector 5 right in the middle. We didn't know about Sector 5.
That's very true, although we don't know that yet.
Forget I said anything, listeners.
But no, what was I going to say? I was going to say something super... Oh, man. First of all, listeners, I'd like to apologize for all the times I'm going to say that, because it is very hot here, and it's kind of addling my mind a little bit.
Are you sure it's not just you?
It's mostly me. Wink.
Wonk. Asterisk wink.
One of these days.
One of these days what?
I don't know, but one of these days. Anyway, so Yumi's screaming outside, and when Aelita goes out to see what has happened, Yumi is gone.
Yeah, just straight up gone. Straight up gone. Like, she hasn't been devirtualized or anything. Jeremie just can't find her on the screen. But as they're panicking, and as he goes off to see what's going on in the scanner room, sure enough, the scanner opens up, and Yumi tumbles out.
And by the way, listeners, just want to remind you, this is episode 2 of what was called, at the time, Pick on Yumi Week. 5 consecutive episodes in which XANA gave Yumi the business end of the stick.
Yes. And do you think it would serve the episode a little better if we, quote-unquote, spoiled what's going on here?
It's so obvious. Like,
It
right
is
from
so
the get-go,
obvious.
it's so obvious. We might as well spoil it.
Yeah.
So, folks, this is not Yumi. This is a clone of Yumi made and controlled by XANA.
She is what will later come to be known as a polymorphic specter.
Exactly. Although, is she polymorphic? She doesn't change
No,
forms.
she's just some kind of creation. Now,
But remember, when the polymorphic specters are formally introduced in Season 2, they actually call back to this episode. They say, oh, it's like what happened with Yumi that one time.
Oh!
I did not know that.
I did not remember that.
Unless I'm misremembering, but I don't think I am.
Yep. But to be clear, listeners, while anybody who watches this episode will immediately know, the Lyoko warriors do not pick up on it at all. It does not seem to even factor into their consciousness that this could possibly be an option. So when Yumi gets out of the scanner, all that they can tell is that she seems a little quieter, and when she does talk, she's a little off.
Yeah, no, they can't really tell, which is interesting. This is the first time that XANA tries to impersonate a human. At least by their reactions, they haven't been able to conceive of it yet.
Although,
what?
There's an element in this episode that it's introduced in this episode, but the characters act like they've seen it before.
Yes, we will. Yes, it's the specific.
The reason Yumi was able to be cloned. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, the mechanism that XANA used in order to trap Yumi and replace her is something that, it harkens back. It's one of many times that they harken back to XANA attacks that we as viewers didn't get to see.
Mary, I hope you forgive me for this, but XANA, basically what he did is repeal and replace Yumi, if you will.
Repeal and replace?
It's a politics joke.
It is a politics joke.
Wah, wah. Yep, that's pretty much what he did, except he didn't kill her.
Well,
no. Just like Paul Ryan, he failed
to kill the ACA.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Zing, zing, zing.
So anyway, they really don't know really what's going on. So they take Yumi to the infirmary. We see them literally dropping Yumi into a bed, and we meet. No, this isn't the first time we meet the nurse. Is
no,
it?
it is. It is. I
We've
mean,
seen
it's not
the
the first.
infirmary before, but we haven't seen.
We've seen the infirmary, but the nurse has not shown up. Now, technically, and if you watch the French version, this is Nurse Yolande Perodine, I think her name is. Mm-hmm. But in the first season, for whatever reason, the dub calls her Dorothy.
And this is another one of those, attempted localization type things, I guess.
It's funny how inconsistent they are. in trying to localize Code Lyoko for American audience.
Right, and
some names stay very French, but others don't.
Or are even just completely out there. For the longest time, I'm almost embarrassed to admit, I did not know what Ulrich's name was. I couldn't tell. It was such a weird sounding word to me. I thought his name was Orrik, Orrik, which made as much sense to me at the time as Ulrich, because I had never heard that name before. It's a very German
Lars
name.
Ulrich?
I'm not a big rock and roll guy, so that wouldn't have factored into my...
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I didn't really catch it at first either.
I didn't catch it at first either, and it always felt really weird on my tongue, his name. And yeah, it's really inconsistent. And I've seen a variety of Ulrich's name spellings. People I think we Americans, we are not used to people being called Ulrich. It's a very uncommon name over here.
If memory serves, there is a bad guy in Mission Impossible 2 called Ulrich.
Ah.
But don't quote me on that.
I won't quote you on that, because I've never
seen... To quote Ben
Mission
when he said not to quote him.
Also, we should point out before this point that there's another sort of purely character moment where Ulrich and Odd have a run-in with Sissy at the vending machines.
Oh, I didn't realize that was before this.
Yeah, it was. And it's also pretty funny there, because we can distinctly see them using a euro coin right before they tried to Americanize Yolanda. Yeah. Should we just call her Dorothy in Season 1? Or
no, her name is Yolanda. Or Yolanda.
Yolanda. Yeah, let's just call her Yolanda.
Okay. Yeah, we'll call her that. Just remember that they think her name is Dorothy for, some kind of weird mass hallucination for a year. But, crazier things have happened.
Basically. But yes, they check in on... Yes. But...
There are stranger things on heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy.
Ooh!
Wow!
It's a little Shakespeare for you guys,
Yeah, that's awesome.
You just made our podcast 8 times classier.
Try to inject some culture into this thing. Trying to inject some culture into this podcast is what I mean.
Well, you've done a wonderful job.
I do.
But either way, after that, Ulrich, Odd, and Jeremie check in on Yumi, and they've just sort of established that she's had some kind of shock. They lie to Yolanda, or Odd says something like, she fainted during recess. It's because we're given too much to study.
And I always thought that was kind of like him saying, like a sly dig at the school by talking to Yolanda, like, hey, can you do something about this? Like, you should tell them to give us less homework.
Well, that's obviously what it is.
As if, his friend being unconscious. Well, this is just a great opportunity for me to try and get less work for me.
I didn't think of it that way.
I didn't until just now.
Odd, you're such a piece of shit.
Oh.
But he's our piece of shit.
Is that going to be bleeped?
Is.
Yeah, I think so.
That's going to be bleeped. That's okay.
Everyone knows what we're saying. Don't worry. But, it's the way that iTunes works. Either way, they leave her in the capable hands of Nurse Yolanda. And at this point, she's woken up, but she's, not speaking. She seems very confused about what's going on. And Yolanda's trying to comfort her, get a sense of what's going on. And I guess XANA at this point is just like, how to human? I know how to attack human. I'm going to attack human. And so she attacks Yolanda off screen.
And then just, we move the shot. We don't know anything about what happens to that. I don't... Where are they? But it's Jeremie talking with people, but I don't remember where in the world that they are. Is it in his bedroom?
No, they're outside. They're hanging out by the canteen.
Yeah, because I think it's Ulrich asks Jeremie, "What about Aelita? Is she safe?" And Jeremie says, "Yeah, I hope so."
She says, "Yes, I told her to stay in the tower." And this actually leads into what I thought was a really triumphant Lyoko sequence, where he keeps saying, "Oh, I told her to stay put. I told her to stay safe." And he repeatedly tells her to stay safe, and she just keeps disobeying him. She's like, "Nah, I'm gonna check this out."
Yeah, good for Aelita.
Love you, Aelita.
We love you,
so
Aelita.
much.
Jeremie also mentioned something almost as an aside. He says, "I wonder if all these scans are becoming a health problem." And they're just kind of troubleshooting what might have happened, because they really, I can't believe that they don't know, but they don't know. And they don't, I think they touch on this maybe 2-3 times total in the series. There's one episode where it features very prominently, but not really any others. They might just mention it. But this is another one of those things where if they had wanted to go down this road, they could have made it very intense very quickly.
Oh, yes, they could have. And they did in that one episode, but then they status quo'd it back. Long story short...
That episode. I mean, I know we're not supposed to be talking about it yet. That was one of the most memorable episodes of Season 2. I was really at the edge of my seat.
Was it season?
Yeah.
I thought it was later. I thought it was like a season 4 episode.
It was late season 2.
It was season 2.
But yeah, no, that one, it was like... Everything was changing, and just the emotional intricacies in that one.
For a long time, I felt like that was really a game changer. But nope, right at the end, they go back to status quo, like always.
As is the order of things in our very favorite show. And you can find out that episode in 30 to 40 weeks.
Wah, wah, wah. But it will be a great ride getting there.
Hold on tight, because it's going to be great, you guys.
Either way, they're talking outside, and they just find Yumi hanging around outside, having apparently escaped her room, or the infirmary, and they ask her what's going on, and she just kind of gives 1 or 2 word answers that are really awkward, except she says, "Let's go to the factory. Let's go to the scanner room. Take me to the scanner room." She just keeps repeating this like a litany.
And again, I want to clarify. She speaks so well robotically. Really, it blows my mind. There is no suspension of disbelief in this episode. It's so obvious that something. I don't get it. But anyway,
well, it's dramatic irony. Like something the characters don't know.
Yeah, like, they don't know that she just attacked Yolanda. And like I've said before, they have no concept of XANA trying to imitate a human. As far as they know, he's just a bunch of smoke that makes nuclear reactors blow up. But yeah, no, they just hang around with Yumi. They try and ask her about what's wrong. They don't really get any answers.
And then she just walks away.
Yeah, and then she just walks away. They do manage to corral her into the cafeteria. Have we seen the cafeteria before now? It's such a tiny place.
I think
yes, we have. We have seen it. We have seen it. And, but yeah, no, they,
Oh, no, we're not there yet.
No, this is the part where Sissy approaches and tries to ask Ulrich out for, like, the 10th time.
Oh, yeah!
And Odd remarks that Sissy smells like fish, which is so mean.
I wondered if it was something that translated oddly. He says something like, is that fish I smell, or are you just wearing cheap perfume?
Yeah, no, I think it made sense for Odd to say something like that. What doesn't make sense is what XANA Yumi decides to say to handle this situation, showing weird comprehension of the emotional situation here and how exactly to get it completely wrong.
Well, I don't think so. I think XANA Yumi did that on purpose to get Ulrich out of the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just to create tensions in the group.
This is one thing. Well, anyway, listeners, to make clear,
what happens is. Oh, you go ahead.
Yeah. XANA Yumi says after, because Sissy says her thing, trying to get over to go out with her, and they all laugh, and then Yumi says, "Why don't you go out with her? She's pretty." And then Sissy's like, "What are you joking?" And
are you
Yumi,
making fun of me? Making fun of me?
Yep, just like that. And XANA Yumi says, "No." And Sissy says, "Oh, well, okay," all happy, and everyone's all freaking out. But and as I was watching this, because like every other episode, I never remembered the plot. I was like, "Well, that was awkward and weird."
We're forgetting something very important. XANA Yumi knows that Sissy's been trying to get Ulrich to go out with her for a long time.
Yes.
How does he know that?
We don't know how they know, but in this episode, XANA. As it becomes clear, and it does become clearer as the episode progresses, XANA is clearly using romance as a weapon.
Yeah.
And he does this...
And it won't be the first time. I mean, the only time.
He does this in later episodes, I'm not sure it's something that's consistently shown. Sometimes XANA is portrayed as this cold paragon of pure logic, and he uses human emotions as a weapon against the warriors. Other times, XANA is portrayed as this vengeful, angry being, and other times XANA's just stupid. But this episode is a very clear usage of emotional manipulation, and XANA has a very exact knowledge of the emotional situation of the Lyoko warriors.
Yeah, it's like it almost makes me think that he's spying on them somehow, like watching their every move and trying to figure out what makes them tick in order to use it against them. And also, like what Ben said, it's kind of really disappointing that XANA's abilities and characterization are so inconsistent, because I'm really intrigued by him. I want to know more about him, and the way that the show treats him makes that really hard.
Well, he's not really a villain. He's more like an amorphous evil, you know? He's not really a character.
Exactly, that's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
XANA isn't... I mean, he could be. There are ways to have written the show where XANA was a character. But XANA is not a character, he's a plot device.
Yeah, basically. I think it would have been a lot better if he'd been a character. Like, he's an artificial intelligence. There's so much to dig deep into there that they just didn't.
There is one episode later in this season...
I think that's Mary's favorite, right?
Ghost Channel?
Which one?
Ghost Channel, yeah.
That's one of my favorites.
It's one of my favorites, too.
It may be my favorite, to be honest.
I vaguely remember Mary telling me at one point that was her favorite Season 1 episode.
I think, yeah, I'm sure I said that.
I do think it's one of the best.
It is one of the best. I think that's what I might have said, that it's one of the best.
That one is basically Code Lyoko does The Matrix.
Basically,
as all of Code Lyoko, yeah. But anyway, what I was just going to say that's an episode where we get a sense of XANA's like motivations and characterization that we essentially do not get ever again.
Nope. Yes, not logical, which is supposed to be like the defining moment of XANA that never really.
Oh, that's so narmy.
It is. Also, just the imagery in that episode. I'm getting ahead of myself.
MST3K moments.
It really is. Not logical. But yeah, no, the imagery in that episode is really creepy. I shouldn't get ahead of myself, though. We're still in image problem. And actually, right after Yumi says that, and Ulrich is like, what the heck, man? The principal shows up and hauls Yumi away. She did some very mean things to Dorothy/Yolanda, and for the crime of attacking a teacher, Jean-Pierre Delmas is giving her 2 hours detention.
The worst punishment of all.
Mr. Delmas, he goes on this little spiel, and he's just aghast. You know, how could you do such a thing, Yumi? He speaks in these horrified tones, and then he says, "I am giving you 2 hours of detention."
That was a really good Mr. Delmas impression.
It really is.
Oh well, thank you. I wasn't even attempting to do a.
Well, you did a great job.
And yet you did. And then, when Yumi
If Yumi had been any more violent, she would have been stuck with the abstract concept of detention. The abstract notion of detention.
Exactly. She would have gotten, level 99 detention.
That's a Namco High reference for you, cool kids from 3 years ago.
Beautiful. It's a beautiful reference. Then, when Yumi doesn't respond to this, Jean-Pierre actually gets really concerned. He tries to ask her what's wrong, and she still doesn't respond, and he says something like, "I'm going to have to tell your parents." And XANA Yumi is really insistent that her parents not know about this.
Not my parents.
Not my parents. She just keeps repeating that. Not my parents. And then when he reaches for the phone anyway,
Yumi
clocks him.
Yeah, she clocks him with the phone receiver. Mr. Delmas goes to put his hand on the phone. Yumi puts her hand there, and Mr. Delmas is like, he says something to the effect of "Get your hand off me!" And Yumi was like, "Nope." And she takes the phone and she picks it up and she holds it there for a second, and then just wham! And there's this really interesting shot. Where Mr. Delmas is lying on the floor, glasses askew, knocked out cold, Yumi standing over him holding the phone, and you just hear the tone playing in the background that a phone makes when it's been off the hook for too long. Or at least you would have known that in 2003. I'm not sure that kids listening to it nowadays would know what that tone means.
I'm sure they would. I think kids nowadays know what landline phones are.
It goes like this. No, it goes like.
Boop.
Thank you for joining us on our telephony podcast.
Michael Winslow learned everything he knows from me.
But by the way, if you look really carefully during
Michael
this
Winslow
scene,
reference.
Mr. Dumas's eyebrows and mustache change color literally every shot. They're normally darker than the rest of his hair, but they turn gray, and I think it's literally every other shot for a little while.
It is. I'm looking at the screenshots now, and yes, you're exactly right. And
Mary,
then Yumi
can you look up, and because I can't open Chrome or my computer will explode, but can you look up if Michael Winslow is the person I was thinking of? The guy from Police Academy that does all the sound effects?
The godfather of beatboxing, man of 10,000 sound effects? Yes, Police Academy.
I remember Winslow, because that was the mouse from Cat Dog. But I wasn't sure about the Michael.
Well, now you have it.
I have learned, okay.
Yes, you have. Meanwhile, Aelita, as we said, has been naughty, and she has been looking around Lyoko for what might potentially be going on. And you know what she finds? She finds a big glowing orange ball.
And she speaks of it like, she says it looks like a guardian, as if, that's something we're all totally supposed to know about. We see guardians, I know of exactly one other time. Are there any other times that we will see them again in the series? And they are only in season 1. And then they're never mentioned again.
There's a guardian in the later season, isn't there?
I think it's treated as something else.
There's like this big dome. Yeah, no, there's a guardian in season 4, only it's a really huge one. And it creates like a virtual reality inside of it that's like a perfect childhood for Aelita, like a Lotus Eater machine.
Oh, I knew they did a big dome like that in Ghost Channel.
Oh, yes, I remember that.
Oh, I stand corrected.
Yeah, it came back in season 4. That's cool.
Oh, that's good.
That is really cool. I'm not sure they called it a guardian, but
they did.
Yes, it basically was a guardian. Oh, man.
Here's the thing, though. Why does Aelita know what a guardian is?
My only guess is they faced it before.
It must have happened. That's my theory. My theory is that the first time they encountered a guardian was also the time they found out that a return to the past couldn't bring people back from the dead. Couldn't bring people back to life.
The thing is, though, Aelita clearly knows what a guardian is, but she has to explain it to Odd and Ulrich.
Oh, you're right. I think the implication is this may just be an artifact of the fact that Aelita's backstory changed so drastically after this season.
But here's the thing. It's later established that Odd is the one that names the monsters.
Right.
So, like, what did Aelita call them before Odd came around?
Bob, Jeff,
Bob.
Well,
remember, like, Odd entered Lyoko not long after Aelita was woken up. So basically...
What if Aelita called Cankerlots Roachsters, and then Odd renamed them Cankerlots? Or maybe it's the other way around.
Oh, snap. Oh, snap.
We can make that a headcanon.
But you know what? I don't want Aelita to come up with the inferior name. Roachster is more of an Odd word than an Aelita word.
Right, and they just kept Cankerlot because Jeremie said so.
Yeah. Your name
so
for them is too stupid, Odd.
So shall it be. And before we move on, I don't want this scene to go to the wayside, the one where Nicholas and Herb...
they're doing their tough guy walk, like shoulders high, like with their knees going all the way up to their chests with every step.
And they're flailing their, like in March step, they're moving their arms and they're stepping up on Ulrich.
Like, imagine if you read a book called How to Walk Like a Tough Guy. That's how they're walking.
Yeah, it's like real 1950s, give you the old 1-2 stuff.
Yeah, and
Nicholas is
Ulrich is just like...
Nicholas is like, when you're a jet, when how does it go? When you're a jet all the way.
But yeah, no, and Ulrich is just like, what are you guys even doing?
That was such a great moment.
It was a wonderful moment. But how does it compare to the big moment coming up next? Possibly the most famous scene in this entire episode.
Oh yeah, it's a Code Lyoko legend.
Dun, 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 dun. Like this, I think this codifies what makes Code Lyoko different, just in how I don't know if I'd call it risque.
No, it's not risque, but it's definitely
intense.
hotter and heavier than Code Lyoko normally is.
It is, yes. Jeremie's sort of talking to Aelita. Aelita tells Jeremie that she sort of disobeyed him and went out and checked out the Guardian. And it's a little moment of tension, a little power struggle, but he takes it in stride. And then Aelita signs off. He will not
always take it in stride.
He will not always take it in stride, unfortunately. And then Yumi walks in.
And I remember that the scene happened, vaguely, but I did not remember that it happened with XANA Yumi, which makes more sense, of course, than what I had thought. But I'll let you tell the story, Mary.
Let me tell the story well.
Yeah.
Yumi walks in. Jeremie is just sort of casually sharing what he's learned. Yumi asks once again for Jeremie to take her to the scanner room, and Jeremie's like, no, we have no reason to go there. What's going on, Yumi? And then she grabs his shoulder and sort of puts her hand on his chest and says,
in a very breathy voice, like, hey,
yes,
let's go to the scanner room.
Take me to the scanner room. And he's like, no, what's going on? And then she reaches over. She takes his glasses off. And she's like, there. And Jeremie just turns beet red and starts sweating, and she, like, really, really slowly leans in, and he's like, no, Yumi, don't do this, don't do this, no.
Very distinctly like the kind of shot that you see in a movie where Yumi is leaning in and she's got her lips puckered, and Jeremie is, flailing around not having any of this. And then, what do you know what happens?
Ulrich and Odd, or Odd and Ulrich, walk into the room, and they see the spectacle.
And they are pissed off.
Well, Ulrich is pissed.
Ulrich is pissed. Odd is kind of pissed on Ulrich's behalf. I think, does Jeremie run off or something happens? Yeah, he runs off.
Ulrich turns around and stomps away.
Odd goes with him, and then Jeremie chases after them in an attempt to explain himself, and then it cuts to a different scene. It will be relevant later that Yumi is left alone in that room.
Yes, she is.
Let's not neglect the scene that follows, because I think I might have learned something from that scene. They're in a science class, they're in a biology class, and they're talking about, what's the word?
Parthenogenesis.
Parthenogenesis. Which is when an animal reproduces asexually by giving birth to a clone of itself, and an exact genetic copy.
Which is the first time and not the last time that Mrs. Hertz will just be happening to be lecturing on something that is directly relevant to the current XANA attack.
But here's the thing. She says that scientists have recreated parthenogenesis in rabbits. Is that true?
See, I didn't remember that at all.
I trusted that it was true, because I felt like they wouldn't be able to put it in the episode without it.
Just the idea of a mammal, like, reproducing asexually just doesn't sound right.
Okay, yes, I just looked it up. Rabbit. In 1936, Gregory Goodwin Pincus reported successfully introducing parthenogenesis in a rabbit.
Huh.
Interesting. Also, for Mass Effect fans, parthenogenesis is vaguely the way in which Asari reproduce.
Well, not quite, because they
not
still...
quite.
Yeah.
It is a form of parthenogenesis, but they mention that word in the codex entry for Asari.
I only know of one creature that reproduces that way, and that is the New Mexico whip-tailed lizard.
Oh yes, that was actually the page image on Wikipedia for parthenogenesis.
Ah, well, good for them. They're nice animals.
They're very cute looking. The more you know, So Yeah, Jeremie tries unsuccessfully, as this is all going on, to try and make things up with Ulrich, and he's refusing to communicate. He even says there's nothing to talk about. Odd sticks out his tongue at him, and Ben, what was it you said about that weird winky face Odd makes?
So in this scene, and then in the scene immediately next, Mary mentions that Odd stuck out his tongue, and then in the next scene, Odd does this gesture that I'm pretty sure is some kind of European FU gesture. He closes one of his eyes and opens the other one really wide and stares at Jeremie with it for a second. I don't know what its name is. I don't know why I think that's an established thing.
It's just an anime thing, isn't it?
Oh, is it?
I've seen it in some animus here and there.
Maybe it is. It's an odd thing to do, unless it has some kind of distinct meaning. But either way, Odd is, in these scenes here, he's very clearly sticking up for his buddy by being disrespectful to Jeremie. And this is, so far as what we have seen, the most effective cleavage of the team that XANA has ever accomplished. In an instant, there are clear, almost unworkable fault lines. We've got Ulrich and Odd on one side and Jeremie on the other. Like, it's just snap your finger and suddenly there is no cohesion at all.
Certainly, but Jeremie is able to repair that breach just a little bit by expressing concern for Yumi. Like, it's clear he's not suddenly working against Ulrich and Odd. It's clear that he's not keeping secrets. He's as confused about this as the others are. And with that, Ulrich is willing to give him a chance.
Odd is still
I think there's been similar rifts in other episodes. For example, XANA's kiss. And
yes,
well, I mean, this
in
is the
later
first
episodes.
Yeah. Oh, you mean to date? To date?
Yes, to date.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
To date.
No,
yes.
In that case, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right.
And of
also,
course,
I'm going to point out... What?
I was just going to say, XANA's kiss is another episode where XANA uses the human emotion as a weapon.
Yes, it's probably actually the most successful one that he does. It's a great episode. It also has the distinction of holding most of the series' kisses, which makes sense.
That's such a Mary thing to know.
Oh.
That's so Mary.
I spent a lot of high school finding out really weird trivia about Lyoko.
As anyone
You're the
should.
star of an early 2000s Disney Channel sitcom where you have psychic powers because that's so Mary.
Oh. Yes. While this is all going on, by the way, Aelita has once again gotten out of the tower and is investigating the Guardian and just sort of avoiding Cancrolots and being very, very cool.
One thing about this episode, the Cancrolots, the Guardian is perched atop this plateau or mesa of ice, and the Cancrolots are perched at the edge and they're shooting down. They're like snipers. I'm not sure that because they're really there's an establishing shot where the tower that Aelita is coming from is pretty well distant from the Guardian. And there's like a ramp up, and the Cancrolots are able to shoot at her from pretty far away. And I'm not sure that we see that again, or at least
I can't say that I have.
Not enough for it to be a thing. Typically, XANA's long-distance monsters are the Hornets that we have not yet seen.
I was just going to mention Wasp/Hornets.
I was just thinking,
they call
really
them
Waspsters.
Oh, I forgot about that.
They sure do.
That's even worse than the Roachsters. Oh god.
No, they just call them Wasps.
I feel like they said Waspsters in at least one episode.
I feel like they did too.
I don't remember that at all. I remember Wasps in season 1 and then Hornets in every season after that.
I think we'll find out.
Anyway,
Waspsters.
So
Wasp sisters.
They finally resolve to go to Lyoko. Jeremie and Ulrich and Odd.
Yes, they do. But first, they go back to Jeremie's room to, I guess, search for something. They go back in, and boom, everything's broken.
And they're like, they say, who could possibly have done this? And they wonder if it was Sissy, and they're like, well, why would she have done that? They wonder if it was Nicholas and Herb, because they were very clearly upset in that earlier sequence. And then they realize who was the last person to be in the room. It was Yumi.
Dun, 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 dun. And then Yumi shows up and she's like, let's go to the scanner room.
And then they
so they do.
They go to the scanner room. There is one thing I want to note here, and it's not technically true, but it looks like it's true. as they all get scanned, this is the first time that we have ever seen them all enter Lyoko at the same time. They are all using the scanners at once. It's always previously been, we'll send Ulrich or we'll send Odd, and then maybe they'll all end up in Lyoko together, but they don't go at the same time until now. Or at least sort of until what happens immediately afterward.
Which is basically before Yumi, quote-unquote Yumi scanner door can close, she shoves her hand in there and rips it open.
Which, we don't and never will understand how virtualization works.
Nope.
But you would think that would be horrifying to, you're about to be presumably broken down into data, and Yumi's just like, nope, I'm going to tear this door open and get out of the scanner. And, again, as is the case in every episode so far, I didn't really remember the plot. So I didn't remember why it was so important for Yumi to get into the scanner room. I couldn't remember why she was so obsessed with it. But here's what happens. As she gets out of the scanner, and then she goes behind it, and she picks up these huge wires that are hooked up into it, and she yanks them out. And her goal is to make it so the scanners cannot be used. As we saw in the previous episode, we build upon the concept that XANA wants to destroy access to Lyoko so he can continue his efforts unimpeded.
You know
Not
what I
only
just
that-
realized?
What?
They never did an episode, and this is like the most obvious homage they could have done. Way more obvious than Speed. Why didn't they do an homage to The Fly?
Didn't they do it?
They did in one of the comics.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah.
Yeah, they did. It
That's
was
horrifying. I really
It was
don't
a bee that
actually-
got into the scanner.
Right, it was actually going into how the scanner works. Multiple times, and this is horrific and never really explored for how horrific it is, if two discrete beings of enough complexity enter the scanner at the same time, they're, fused together.
Okay, first of all, The Fly horrifies me. Everything about the concept horrifies me. So let's not go down that road too specifically, because
Okay.
You're right, it is very horrifying. But yes, that is what happens. I did not know that there were comics that involved a bee. As a person who is severely afraid of bees, that is just about the most horrifying thing that I could imagine.
Yeah, Yeah, there's a comic where Yumi gets fused with a bee.
Of course it's Yumi.
What would have happened if the bee got into the scanner by itself and was scanned? It was virtualized into Lyoko. Would it have bee superpowers
Probably.
on Lyoko? Would it get a cool bee outfit?
Yes.
That is
Yes,
an avenue that
absolutely.
the show really should have explored.
It should have, and it was just another way that it had disappointed us, unfortunately. I think another thing that XANA accomplishes here by blocking off access to the scanners is she traps Ulrich and Odd on Lyoko.
And they don't even really... They kind of allude to it, but they do not explicitly state that this is the case.
Yeah. And Jeremie goes down and tries to find out what's going on with Yumi because he's noticed that she hasn't gotten on Lyoko, and she...
Knocks him the F out.
Well, actually, first, he catches her pulling stuff out of the scanners, and she actually fakes him out. She drops it and, puts her hand against her head. He sort of goes near her in concern, and then she knocks him out.
Yeah. And she does this, ridiculously cartoonish, diabolical laugh.
Oh,
my
yeah!
god, you're right.
Oh, Yumi.
Oh, Yumi. Meanwhile, on the Lyoko...
There's a standard Lyoko battle as they're trying to defeat the Cancrolots. And right now, they're focusing at the Guardian. Because there's the Guardian, which is up on this pillar of ice, as I mentioned earlier. Then the activated tower is further away, and there's also monsters there. But right now, they're battling with the Guardian. Does anybody know, is it consistent that Ulrich's sword, if it's hit with a laser, if the laser bounces off his sword and goes elsewhere, or if the laser is just absorbed? Because in this...
I think it's bounced off.
Okay.
I think it's pretty
Never
rare that
remember
he
it
uses
being
it.
absorbed.
Okay, then okay, because I thought it was just absorbed. But anyway, there's this sequence where a Cancrolot hits Ulrich's sword, and it bounces off his sword and onto a thing of ice, and then it bounces off that thing of ice and onto a Cancrolot, destroying it. It might have been a cool sequence, except it was animated really slowly, and it was done
that
really
was
weirdly.
weird. Yeah, that was really weird. But yeah, no, he deflects laser beams with his sword all the time, but this is the only time I can recall that he's actually used it to destroy another monster.
Has any fictional character ever had a mirror blade?
I don't
Mirror
know.
blade?
That sounds like a cool idea, right? Like a big,
you'll-
broadsword that's a mirror?
That
would be pretty cool.
does sound pretty cool.
Yeah, I have a feeling, like, if a sword is shiny enough metal, there's usually a scene where the person looks knowingly into it, but actually using that as part of its weapon capabilities, not really.
Well, in that case, don't
Alas.
steal it, Internet, because it's my idea.
Speaking of reflections, I forgot to mention this earlier, but I had it in my notes. There's this scene where Aelita is sneaking around to try and look at the Guardian, where she's like sort of crouched in front of this wall of ice, and you can see behind her Aelita's reflection in the ice, but it's distorted because of the uneven surface of the ice. And in 2003, that must have been like peak realistic animation effect.
Yeah, no, thinking back on what there was in 2003, definitely.
Well, what
definitely.
about... Jimmy Neutron looked a lot better than that.
Was Jimmy Neutron this era?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. First Jimmy Neutron came out in 2001.
Wow, I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
And you know what's cool about Jimmy Neutron? It was actually the whole show and the movie were created with commercial modeling and animation products.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I don't know the exact program they used, but I know that it's commercially available and was
I didn't know.
available
That's
at the
awesome.
time.
Huh. Well, there you go.
Well, there you go.
You too can animate a major motion picture starring Patrick Stewart as the voice of an egg.
That was
And-
Patrick Stewart?
That was Patrick Stewart.
That was Patrick Stewart, yes. Patrick
in the
Stewart
in the
is
movie,
Yumi.
but not in the series.
Well, of course, but
And don't forget my favorite fact about Jimmy Neutron, which is that Roger Ebert gave it 3 out of 4 stars.
Did
That
he
is-
really?
Yeah.
wow.
He thought it was really charming.
Well, I mean, he's right.
You know, I don't think I ever liked the movie that much, but I was definitely a fan of the TV show.
I loved both. I did love the
I love
movie.
both. Guys, we watched that DVD so often in my house that it wore out.
Fun fact, Jimmy Neutron was, I believe, the last film that my family bought on VHS. Because I remember distinctly having a VHS of Jimmy Neutron.
That's awesome.
Let's do a Jimmy Neutron podcast. From now on, Return to the Past is called Return to the God of Blast, and it's about Jimmy Neutron. What did you guys think about when Pants Attack? Episode
stick with
1, when
Lyoko.
Pants Attack. What are you guys' thoughts on it?
Yeah, I thought it was a good episode.
I thought it was okay.
10 out of 10.
And
Okay.
then
Well, guys,
we
this
will-
has been
we will-
Return to God of Blast. Thanks
We
for
will-
joining us in our
We
debut
will
episode.
keep that on the back burner. It'll be our sequel to Return to the Past. That would have been a great April Fool's Day thing for us to
it
do.
would have been. It
Next
really
year,
would have been.
forget this
Next
episode
year.
ever happened, and we can surprise you with this in something like 350-ish days.
Wah, 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 wah. And speaking again of reflections, that's actually how they beat the Guardian, by making it think that it's at the wrong person. Which...
Oh yeah, Aelita shows off a new skill that I don't think she ever uses again. No, wait, yes, she does.
Does she?
Yeah, she does at least once more.
It's definitely built on this theme that Aelita has, where she can alter her surroundings, alter the world, and alter the network that she operates on. She does her creativity thing with the singing and makes a clone of Yumi, and she says, "I can fool the Guardian into thinking that it does not have its target."
But
She
unlike the platforms she creates, this is a hologram of Yumi.
Yes, it distinctly
Yes.
it has this glow to it. One thing that this notion that Aelita can do things like this. I mean, she's almost doing the same thing XANA did. XANA created a clone of Yumi. Here Aelita can do it too. One thing that one can think of in the first season that does not really work after they change Aelita's backstory is that Aelita is like this light side analog of XANA. And that idea always fascinated me. She can do pretty much all the same things. There's an episode later in the season where she distinctly says that she can operate on the network just like XANA. I always thought that was really cool to think of, but...
What if,
yes, I remember that.
going off of that, what if XANA's human form is a goth Aelita?
Beautiful! Or at least it would have been in Season 1. I'm not sure that would have worked later in.
No, unfortunately.
Right, because basically Aelita's whole backstory gets rewritten.
Well, she doesn't really have a backstory right now.
It's more implied than anything else, but yeah she doesn't really.
Yeah.
Either way, some reason this Guardian thinks that the living, breathing, struggling Yumi that is currently encased inside of it is less real than the holographic, perfectly still Yumi outside.
And then it explodes.
It explodes, yes.
And, you think that it's just going to move over. No, they show this, they zoom out and boom, the thing blows up.
Yes.
But
and
hey, who am I to
for
judge?
the first time since the beginning of the episode, we see the real Yumi.
And there's this scene immediately after where they talk about how they need to deactivate the tower quickly, and then they spend like a minute or two just arguing about what they're going to do next.
Yeah. And this is also the first episode, a lot of firsts here, which makes sense, and the first one where they decide they have to get Yumi back to the real world so she can get rid of the Yumi clone. Or she decides she wants to go back and do it, and they get her back. Ulrich attacks her and devirtualizes her.
They play this off always as this really intense thing, like you have to attack your own friends in order to get back on Earth. That's how they manually, to put it in a word like that, that's how they manually devirtualize themselves in any event where Jeremie cannot do that for them.
Right. Which, you gotta admit, it's pretty traumatic, probably, to
It would be
run through by a sword by your own friend / crush.
But there's no blood and guts in Lyoko.
No, there isn't.
And they know what's going to happen. They know it's just, you'll show back up on Earth. But it's always played off. I mean, even this is the first time that we see it. In fact, when Yumi says she needs to get back to Earth, Ulrich's like, but how? And Yumi just says, you're armed, aren't you? And, we get the sense that Yumi is the very strong, no-nonsense type here. But it's a surprise to them. So I understand it the first time, but like every other time that they have to do it in the series, there's always this hesitation, like, what? Like, we have to attack each other? And while I understand that it can certainly be something that's heavy, I don't feel like it should be as heavy as it is every time. Especially because they know they're in a cartoon video game world.
I think it does get a little more blasé later on.
Which is a really cool touch, if it does. I guess the impression that you should get from this is, before doing this podcast, none of us had watched Code Lyoko in a very long time. And we're basically coming at this with only hazy memories.
It's very true.
Yeah, and to inject some levity in here, the lines that they said before this about the other Yumi are really cheesy. Like, Yumi says something like, I have to settle this by myself. It's a matter between me and myself.
I
and
know.
It's just like, Yumi, why?
Like she just learned about it like a minute ago, and she's acting so dramatic about it.
And
like,
besides,
it's
it's
XANA,
not,
you guys.
It's not Shadow Yumi. It's just an evil clone of her created by a third party.
Exactly. It's not her because it's definitely not her. But either way, Ulrich devirtualizes Yumi, and at that point, it's pretty much a standard Lyoko fight. They just have to get Aelita to the tower. They defeat some Cankerlots. At this point, they're not even really pretending the Cankerlots are a serious threat, which is a little refreshing.
I know.
Meanwhile,
let's just dust that off, because we don't need that concept anymore.
Meanwhile, back on Earth, Yumi shows up, and now there are 2 Yumis, and thus begins one heck of a fight.
And it is so awkward.
Wait, hold on. Just so we don't lose track of which the real Yumi is, of who the real Yumi is. Evil Yumi gets a big Eye of XANA tattoo on her forehead, on her giant forehead.
Yeah, well, which is why it's so big. You have to have room for all the marketing, right?
Yeah, all the branding.
Yeah.
All the branding, yeah. It astounded me, like, how big it was. Like, yeah. I will be the first to say, like, I don't make fun of the characters' foreheads unless it's Yumi, and then I can make fun of Yumi's forehead.
You need to understand that Yumi's forehead takes up more space than her actual face does on her head.
Yes.
Well, you can say the same for all the characters.
Yes, but with Yumi, it's particularly egregious. I'm not sure why.
Because she doesn't have a widow's peak, and her hair is swept back a little.
Yeah, that's just it. Like she emphasizes a noble brow, as you could say.
So this fight sequence, it's because it's in 2D, of course, because they're in the real world. It just does not flow as smoothly as fight sequences on Lyoko does. And like, there's these dramatic, real Yumi does this dramatic kung fu pose, and like there's this glowing highlight that zooms in on her hand, like, you're about to catch this hand, XANA, and XANA Yumi just sort of like runs screaming rah, and like friggin' drop kicks real Yumi. I'm not going to go blow by blow for the whole fight. I just wanted to emphasize that, because whereas previously in this episode, XANA is the cold, unfeeling, calculating, logical being, very clearly she runs angrily at Yumi, just like, rah, attack, rah!
Rah. And at some point, the hatch in the middle of the scanner room floor pops open. Fun fact, this goes down to the actual mainframe of the supercomputer. We don't know that yet.
XANA Yumi peels it off and then uses it to attack regular Yumi.
Right. And then they all take turns trying to throw each other in. Eventually, Jeremie is the one who gets tossed down. That's a steep drop. I'm not sure how steep.
It's very... when we see the mainframe room later, it's a very, very tall room. There's a later episode where Jeremie has to get dropped down into it via a winch that he sets up, and it's a long way down. I would say, if I had to guess, at least 20, maybe 30 feet.
I find it interesting that the actual sort of computer processor where XANA and Lyoko are kept is kept secret until fairly deep into season 1. It makes it very mysterious.
It does, and just so everybody knows, I love the design of the supercomputer.
Oh, it is so cool.
They call it in season 1
it's
super
amazing.
calculator, but yeah. Anyway, but we don't know. We don't know that that's there. But Xana's falling Jeremie's falling. And of course, this is at the same time that Aelita is going up to deactivate the tower, as is her way. We see shots of Jeremie falling, and then, shots of Aelita slowly going up, and then, and then shots of Aelita. Yep. Aelita does her thing, Code Lyoko, and deactivates the tower. And a return to the past literally automatically happens. Almost every other time, Jeremie has to press a button, and it's left ambiguous. He always says return to the past now. Sometimes he just says return to the past now. So we don't know if it's his finger doing it or if it's his voice command. This time it didn't need either. It just happens.
It's his voice. Because there's one episode where he's being pulled away from...
and he shouts it, and it happens. But one thing that I do want to mention here, as Jeremie is falling into this room, again, we don't know it's the mainframe, but it is. The bubble effect, the return to the past bubble effect, the big white thing, we never see it, air quote, created before, but it seems to start from directly under Jeremie and balloon out. So it seems to be implying here that the return to the past bubble is generated by the supercomputer. In later episodes, it comes out of the hologram display in the lab.
I remember that.
Yep. I just wanted... That's one of those little things that I note. I don't know if maybe they changed their mind or what. But anyway, they return to the past just as Jeremie is falling, and everything is back to the way it was.
No Jeremie pizza here.
Huh?
Jeremie does not become a road pizza.
Oh, good. We don't want him to become a road pizza.
I do like pizza. Now I want pizza. Is it bad that I want pizza after you said that?
Only if it has onions and mushrooms on it.
I would never. Dear God. That's those are the worst possible pizza toppings.
Well, mushrooms
That sounds delicious to me.
Well, I like mushrooms.
We've had this discussion before.
We have had this discussion.
We exist on a spectrum of liking onions and mushrooms.
What about
I
pineapple?
like neither. You like one of them. Mary likes both.
What about pineapple on pizza?
Pineapple on pizza is yes.
Yeah,
It
Yes.
is the correct
that's a yes
choice.
for me too.
Oh man, I think we're the biggest gathering of people in a hypothetical room space ever, where we all like pineapple on pizza.
But
Have
it's
you
so
ever had-
good. Why do people have such a problem with pineapple on
because
pizza?
it's like a fruit.
Yeah,
One
you know
thing
what
that
else is
was
a fruit?
amazing-
You know what else is a
What?
fruit? Tomato.
Tomato.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, this is total tangent, guys. But the other day, I went out to Korean barbecue with my friends, and one of the meat that they had grilled was grilled with a ring of pineapple. It was so good.
Good choice. Yes.
Grilled pineapple, amazing. Believe me, it's great. How about we end the episode with this final scene here where they talk about basically how weird this whole thing was, but it gives Jeremie hope since XANA was able to make effectively a living, breathing human being from the scanner. He's hopeful
what
that
I'd
that
like
means
to know.
materialization's possible.
Here's what I'd like to know. Was the clone Yumi a true human, or was she like a hard light construct?
I
I
don't know.
don't know.
That said, Nurse Yolanda did not seem to react strangely while touching Yumi. Like I think she had a grab on her arm, and I would feel like if you were a hard light construct, you would not feel like a human being feels. So it must have been a mass of
How does a
Meat.
crystal gem feel?
Right.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I do not know the answer to that question.
I don't know the answer to that question. We'll
Join
just
us
have
for
to ask
our
Rebecca,
Steven Universe
Rebecca Sugar.
podcast, but the
I'm
Steven
sure there
Universe
are.
podcast won't be until after we finish Return to the God of Blast.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Join us again in like 2019.
Wait, before we go, what is the best episode of Jimmy Neutron?
The one where Jimmy and Cindy switch places, and they have to reassemble their memories.
Trading Faces.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
Trading Faces.
Rapture's
Yes.
enjoyment of mustard.
Yes.
I was gonna say Beach Party Mommy, but thinking back on it, I liked the Eggpire Strikes Back a little more. That was one of the hour-long
I like-
specials.
I really liked Beach Party Mummy. It had a lot of great classic bits.
I really like Jimmy Neutron.
Man.
Looking back, that was probably like one of the number one shows that I ever watched.
Let's
But I never.
just make this podcast about Jimmy Neutron. From
No,
now on,
no.
it's about Jimmy Neutron.
No.
No.
We started this Code Lyoko thing.
Wait.
I just made a gosh darn Tumblr about it.
I'm gonna make an observation before we go.
Sure.
I always found it funny that Jimmy Neutron didn't believe in like supernatural things. On the other hand, Dexter wanted to prove that supernatural things existed using science. Like, there's one whole episode about how he wants to prove that Bigfoot exists. And I always thought that was kind of cool.
I never noticed that distinction.
I never knew that either. That's really cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, I might have been the only person who gave enough of a rat's ass to compare the disciplinary differences between Dexter and Jimmy Neutron, but there you go.
Jimmy Neutron, also probably one of the only characters in fiction with a larger forehead by proportion than Ishiyama.
Yes! Well said. Well said.
This is true. It's
What?
like
So,
Isn't there
what
a
do
basketball
we?
player that recently made the headlines by giving himself a Jimmy Neutron haircut?
I did not see that.
Like a giant, enormous Hershey Kiss pompadour.
I'll have to look that up. What do you rate this episode, guys?
Oh, we're not done yet. We
No, we're not?
didn't do the most important scene where Jeremie says that he realized it wasn't the real Yumi when she tried to flirt with him, and then Yumi decides to fake flirt with Jeremie.
Are you
The
sure
real
I
Yumi.
wouldn't do that? Or how does it go?
And she does it in exactly the same way
Like she
without
leans
knowing.
in, takes off his glasses. Yeah.
Without knowing that's what XANA did. And Jeremie's stunned. Everyone seems to think this is funny except for Ulrich, who does not laugh. And
You know what we don't talk about enough?
what?
What?
Jeremie's laugh.
Oh my goodness
Because
gracious.
Jeremie's laugh sounds roughly akin to what David's Sans impression sounds like. Yeah, and
Basically.
Jeremie's laugh is kind of like... Yeah, so...
Well, cut the guy some slack. His voice is cracking for the first time.
Yeah, but I mean, he laughs. There's no explaining that away. Jeremie is just a weird young guy.
He's very, very strange.
He's such a big fat cheesehead.
He is. I can't even think of what that would mean. Lita, what joke do you and Jeremie have that,
Maybe he really likes the Packers. like beloved mid-2000s cartoon character Vlad Plasmius.
Oh, jeez.
I think of him every time I think of the Packers. Just fun fact.
I do too. Don't feel bad.
We can consider this podcast a general homage to all those great mid-2000s cartoons.
Yeah.
You gotta catch 'em all, 'cause he's Danny Phantom. Da-da-da-da-da-da. He's a Phantom.
You guys may not like me for this, but I was never a fan of Danny Phantom.
That's okay.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, it was one of my first bigger Phantoms. I mean, Phantom.
You said the thing.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Just remember Kappa Mikey.
Oh my god. Anyway, let's
I
rate this episode before we go to Kappa Mikey.
Yeah, I was never a big Kappa Mikey dude at all.
The theme song, though.
Really stand it.
That theme song was legit.
But anyway, I'm going to say 7 out of 10 for our 7th episode.
7.2 out of 10.
I'm gonna go up to a 7.5. It wasn't as good as I remember, but it was a very strong episode. I think, thinking of it in comparison to Season 2, it does a lot of the things Season 2 does as far as character tensions, but Season 2 does them better.
You guys, this is a history-breaking moment. This is the first time that I've rated the episode the least.
Really?
In fact, I believe almost every time I gave the episode the highest rating out of all of us. This is the first time where I was the lowest.
Well,
wow.
7 sounds... Well, maybe. I mean, the thing is, I'm accustomed to thinking of ratings in, like, video game review ratings where, like, an 8 is blasphemously low. You know?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Maybe a 7 is right. Who knows?
But anyway, yeah, you guys. So next episode, what is next episode?
It's End of Tape, which...
that's
oh my
classic.
god.
It's a classic, but it's
It's a humdinger, folks.
It's a
humdinger.
Land sakes alive, we're cooking with petrol now.
I have a feeling that this is not going to be one of those episodes, because like in some of the episodes, we were like, we have to watch this episode next. And then when we talk to you next, we're like, wow, you guys, this episode was refreshingly good. This is not one of those episodes.
I never disliked End of Take.
I believe it may be one of the episodes that I actively avoided to rewatch.
Yeah, there were a few episodes,
but I'm
not even sure I've seen the entire series.
I do not believe that I hated the episode. It was just awkward, I think.
But it has the Predalien in it. It predates Alien v Predator Requiem by several years. It's got a Predalien in it. Am I the only Predalien enthusiast in here?
It sounds like it, David. Somebody in this family has to be.
Unfortunately, I've never actually seen any of the Alien, Predator, anything.
Most of those are bad, but a few of them are really great. Like the first
I will take your word for it.
The first 2 Aliens and the first Predator are pretty great.
And then the rest are
skippable. Although I think Alien v Predator, the first one, is underrated.
I believe that might have been the only one that I've seen, but I don't really remember it in sequence.
Which one? AVP?
Yeah.
As the cool kids call it. It's not great, but I think it's a little better than people give it credit for.
I am 100% lost here.
That's okay, folks. Or wait, I should say that's okay. But anyway, folks, remember that if you enjoy listening to our fair podcast, please feel free to rate it, to subscribe to us, to download our dear podcast if you live in Brazil or the United States or on the moon. And please review our podcast. The more that you interact with our content, the more that iTunes thinks that we are an actual real thing and increases our search visibility. So if you like us, please take some time out of your day and give us some help. Feel free to email us. You can now, like I said, you can ask us on Tumblr. You can send us nudes.
Please
don't actually send us nudes. This is a bit we're doing.
Yes, it's a bit.
Or just send them to Ben. Ben wants the nudes. We don't want the nudes.
Fair enough.
Precisely.
And one last thing for our Brazilian listeners, shout out to that cryptid that has one big eye in the center of its forehead and a second mouth on its stomach. I like that cryptid. Oh, and shout out to the sloths, because sloths are great.
Shout out to sloths.
Shout out
to sloths.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, sloths, for existing.
You are God's noblest creatures.
Precisely.
Join us next week for another episode of Return to the Gotta Blast.
Exactly. Featuring Steven Universe. As ever, I am Mary.
I'm David.
Pretty sure I'm still Ben.
Super nuclear
brain blast.
Que je ne suis qu'un bon à rien, un vrai loser. Et d'un mot qui sonne, je ne suis plus dans le coup. Une flèche au cœur, je fais plus partie du show. Tirer le rideau, éteignez les lumières. Qu'est-ce que je peux faire? Coincé sur ma chaise, déchaînez-moi, on va s'envoler. Après penser, déjà parti, les ailes en bataille d'un ange déchu, plus que quelque part, une dernière porte, laissez-moi passer.